Welcome to Finals, everyone! I'm not Jimmy, dude. What? Jason is currently shrinking. No, I'm just kidding. His chair's broken. But welcome to Finals of our first February challenge, I think. If not, second February challenge. But anyways, welcome. We're all tired here. But we have a very special match here because we have Matthew Jensen from Toronto, Canada versus Michael Wagner from SoCal. And this is Matthew's first local of the season here because he lives in Toronto. Michael is very regular here, as you know, but we have two different types of teams. Obviously, one a lot more common. That's Michael's. That's the Amoonguss, the Fluttermane, the Incineroar, the Porygon 2, the Ursaluna Hisui, and the Urshifu Rapid Strike. Matthew opting for Sunroom, which is Torkoal, Hisui Lilligant for a Giraffe, Fluttermane, Walking Wake, you don't see that every day, and Raging Bolt. So two of the three legendary paradoxes there.
Yeah, funnily enough, they were both of our losses today.
Both of our losses.
Both of us have lost to these two trainers. And I believe it's Ryan Almeida who popularized this Lily Cole combination with the top 16 at Orlando Regionals during Reg F 1.0. So let's see how Matthew Jensen plays here today. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Marty, are you?
I'm so excited. I've been saying all day, because Matthew's my best friend, and he wanted to see what it's like here at a SoCal local. And legitimately, I was like, you're going to get the experience, including being on stream.
And Michael Wagner is the only trainer from last season to win 2 Psycho Turtle locals in a row.
So this is very intense. So we're going to see that Torkoal, Hisui Lilligant lead on Matthew's side. Michael leading with Amoonguss and Incineroar, very passive lead from Michael's side. But it's still really solid. Does dodge both the real threats that Lilligant brings, which is the Sleep Powder and the After Eruption. Amoonguss has to Terra out of that eruption, but still, is it worth burning your Terra early is the question.
Yeah, what Terra type is here on this Amoonguss?
It is Fire.
Fire. Oh, that is going to do really, really well against that Torkoal's Eruption or Weather Ball.
Absolutely.
Try.
Trying to make sure our audio is on here because I can't hear you on the headphones. But we're going to see that Incineroar swap on out. That I'm not surprised, doesn't really want to get hit with a close combat, so Fluttermane in its place, so it dodges that close combat. But was the close combat the option, or was it that After Eruption? Torkoal swapping out, so it's not Eruption.
One really scary thing that Matthew can go for is if this Amoonguss does choose to Terra Fire, you can just go straight for a Sleep Powder, use a little bit of its own medicine against Michael here. And that would be terrifying.
Honestly, that would be an insane read, and I was talking with Matthew earlier, he said he made some wild reads, like close combating into a Fluttermane, knowing that it would go for a Terra. Not opposed to seeing stuff like that, but no, just went for the close combat into that Incineroar slot. We're going to see Amoonguss go for Sludge Bomb, breaks the Sash on Lilligant, but honestly, it does put Matthew in a better position here. This Lilligant is still faster thanks to the Sun, and it has Sleep Powder potential on both of the opposing Pokemon. Wouldn't be surprised to see Incineroar swap in, but if you do, you now also have Giraffe, which has Hyper Voice and Throat Spray boost. So, you know, that's the thing, where it's like, if you go for that, it's 50-50s here. And it's not Pokemon without seeing Sleep Powder miss.
Yeah, I feel like that's intrinsic with Sleep Powder, especially. And unfortunately, we do see that Moonblast going into the Frigga, but it doesn't do quite enough damage.
Hyper Voice is going to pick up that special attack boost, which is nice. It's going to be a little tricky here because we saw Moonblast do a ton of damage, and Spore gonna do even more. However, well, in the long-term damage. Because this Giraffe is now susceptible to a Moonblast that will just knock it out. But the good news is Lilligant is still able, and it's still able to go first. So you kind of have one more turn with Lilligant. Do you take the risk on that Fluttermane Sleep Powder? Do you take the risk on going into the Amoonguss Sleep Powder? Or do you just predict a close combat and swap here? Or neither, and you just switch out your Lilligant.
The really scary thing about Michael's team here is that it just has enough bulk to get through Matthew's Lilligant-Torkoal combination. Really, Matthew has to find secondary forms of offense here to be able to break through the score.
Absolutely.
And saw on Michael's team, there's been no damage dealt whatsoever, other than that Hyper Voice, which does pitiful damage.
Yeah. We are going to see the Incineroar swap back out in place of the Fluttermane, but good news for Lilligant is when it comes back in, it's not going to have an Intimidate drop. Sludge Bomb, as predicted, goes into Raging Bolt, gets the poison because, unfortunately, there's the curse of the stream. And Matthew is dealing with that right now.
Just Matthew has no options right now to deal with this Amoonguss and Incineroar. The Raging Bolt can do some important damage into it with the Sun Boost, with the Photosynthesis, special attack boost, but how does that really get through Incineroar or Amoonguss?
The good news with Raging Bolt being poison, it's kind of a reverse plus here, because yes, you're going to take damage at the end of every turn, however, you can't get Spored, so you're free to now just kind of damage, and damage hard, because this is a plus special attack boost, Sun Boosted Raging Bolt, or you can swap it back out into Lilligant if you expect something. I guess it's a sacrificial play on the Lilligant to try and get the Trick Room up. Honestly, I don't mind this.
But we see the parting shot into the Lilligant, like that is going to make its Solar Blades and close combats hit so much less hard. But let's see if Michael is going to go ahead and switch that Incineroar in, or Fluttermane in, or is it going to be the 4th Pokemon? And we see the 4th Mon come out here.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. But there is one interesting thing here, and it's going to come down to how much speed this Furtrap and this Ursaluna has. You know, Ursaluna, Furtrap's now taking, I think, 2 turns of sleep, so it's got essentially 50-50 shot to wake up this turn versus the next turn. And because of the Terra, you are free to kind of just go close combat into the Ursaluna slot, and then full power Psychic into the Amoonguss. Can Amoonguss do damage back and knock you out? Yes, but at that point, it might be in range, thanks to the Throat Spray, to pick up at least into the red. At that point, both Torkoal and Raging Bolt can finish it off. So I think the question is, you can also just go for a Solar Blade into the right. I mean, it's gonna be probably your best bet.
Solar Blade is so scary to go for, though, because Instant switching is impending on the right side for Michael. Instead, we see the Amoonguss switch out here for likely this Incineroar to drop the physical attack on his Lilligant.
Would definitely have been surprised if it was an Incineroar there. I like that, but I think it still puts Ursaluna into a susceptible position, or Incineroar into a susceptible position. That does a decent chunk. I'm not opposed to this, actually. 3-turn sleep for Furtrap.
Still asleep. We don't see the Earthquake come out here from Ursaluna, which does make sense because Incineroar did switch in, but it would have been nice to get that Lilligant off the field.
Do you know what it is time for? Do you know what it is time for? Let's see. Let me just see. It's time for Eruption, baby! It is time for full power, Terra, Fire, after you, Eruption. I don't see a way that Michael can dodge this at this point. And I know how much damage this Torkoal does. And there's nothing that Michael can do to dodge it, because Rage Powder doesn't detract from it. I think he just kind of... Do you just kind of win here? Do
you want to be really safe around the fake-out pressure that Incineroar now presents on the field?
Yes, that is also
the first turn for...
Okay, yeah, I like this
for Incineroar.
Yeah, fake-out's a thing. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that fake-out was a thing. It was introduced in Generation 1, 2, or 3. And it has changed the game ever since then.
But this is a really smart play. Sacrifice your Raging Bolt. And honestly, if you do sacrifice it here, like hypothetically these two stay up, you could go for a Helping Hand plus Dragon Pulse into that Ursaluna. Threatens it quite a bit. Yeah, definitely don't want to get faked out here. And there's that fake out, which would have hit. That's a thing.
And importantly, we do see this Raging Bolt get picked up. But I'm really curious to see what Michael's plan is to get around this Lilycole option. Because while it still won't do that much damage into Incineroar and the Amoonguss in the back, it's still a really scary offense. And it might be an interesting last-ditch attempt for Matthew to get a ton of damage on the board.
Yeah, this is honestly really good positioning for Matthew. Even though he's down 2 to 4, Ursaluna goes down to Eruption. You still have the Terra, which is great. So it goes down to Eruption. I wouldn't Terra this turn, because Instant, I think, does go down and from that health, and Ursaluna could potentially protect, and it's at -1, so you're good. And you might want to save your Terra for Ghost on Lilligant. You could potentially go for it, I guess, but I would just save it and go for the Eruption. But I understand the hesitation here to just click it, because you do kind of want to worry because you're not clicking Terra. Like, do you think you can KO the Instant from this range? I think you can. It might... Yeah, I think that's the right call. And swapping the Instant out just kind of solves all your issues there. I think even with Amoonguss coming in, like, it doesn't really matter, because you can go Terra Ghost, Fake Out, Spore that Amoonguss, and then go for it.
Wow, I really do not like this turn from Michael
Not
Wagner,
at all.
because this eruption is going to do probably over 50% to this Amoonguss here. Can it survive a second eruption after this attack? Probably not.
I doubt it.
Importantly, Matthew does not Terra Ghost the Lilligant at any point in this battle
It
yet.
does let it. It does let it. Yeah, this becomes an interesting match now.
Yeah.
Do you Terra? Do you just flat out Terra? I kind of think you do. I know Instant can fake out, and Flutter can come in, but then at that point, Flutter can't really touch you. I think you go for after you. Yeah, I think the thing with Flutter is its choice specs, right? And it will probably lock into Power Gem. But in order to do any meaningful damage, it needs to go ahead and knock out the Torkoal first, which then puts Lilligant in a spot where it can close combat the Incineroar at the very end. And Fluttermane can't really one-shot. I don't think Fluttermane can one-shot the Torkoal with Power Gem. I think it's just tanky enough, so we'll see. But this should definitely pick up the double knockout.
But the Amoonguss barely hangs on. I wonder if the Sludge Bomb is going to go into the Torkoal, or if it's going to finish off this Lilligant that's on such low HP. And instead, we do see the Sludge Bomb to the Lilligant.
Well, you know what? I think that Amoonguss needs to be really studied with special attack, because there has been so many different positions for me, like personally, that I've experienced where you just have to deal with like so many like Amoonguss living things that you don't expect it to live, like that. I mean, that wasn't after you Sun, Terra, everything eruption. Like that just was as powerful as it can be, and it still survived it.
I think for Matthew, he has to figure out what exactly went wrong during Game 1, and partially, a lot of it stems down from that initial reluctance to go for the Terra Fire on Torkoal. Bring that Amoonguss to a 2-hit KO would have been so important for the rest of the set, because Lilligant Torkoal, after your eruption, just might wipe everything out.
Yeah. I completely agree. I think that it was the hesitation there on that, which I don't blame Matthew at all, because you really want to hang on to that Ghost Terra on Lilligant for the Incineroar. That was a good win condition. I think Michael saw that and was like, you're not going to Terra, I'm going to bring in Amoonguss. My little fun idea, I like Raging Bolt. I think I like Walking Wake better here. Again, I'm not an expert with this team, but I think Walking Wake provides just a little bit more utility with Protect. It also threatens Amoonguss and Incineroar, and as you can see there. I do think Torkoal is good. I think Lilligant's good as well. I wouldn't change necessarily the lead, because it does force a Amoonguss Terra, which is fantastic. But I think what I would go for is honestly lead with Torkoal and Lilligant. And then I would probably swap the Lilligant out into Walking Wake and have Torkoal Walking Wake to kind of bait that Terra on the Amoonguss and be like, yeah, you're not sporing anything anymore. And if you decide to go for it, I've got Eruption to just chip you and finish you off. And then have your back end be Fluttermane and Lilligant to clean up. I would go for that. Matthew might watch this back and yell at me and be like, that is not the right play, you idiot, but we're gonna see.
I have to say, the P2 option for Michael does present itself as being potentially attractive, because it's able to reverse those Trick Rooms if Choreograph does end up going for it. It also does have so much bulk that Torkoal does not have an easy time breaking through it. Neither does Walking Wake or even the Specs Flutter. Being able to take hits from all three of those mods is really scary.
Yeah, that Torkoal, even with Terra Fire, it's going to only do about 75% to 80% onto the Porygon 2. But I see the reason to opt out. If you're Michael, I understand why you opted away from it. Mainly just because you don't want to deal with the repercussions of Sleep Powder. But speaking of Walking Wake, it's a Walking Wake lead here. Double Protect is imminent as well, and now it becomes some 50-50 mind games. Do you Terra the Amoonguss expecting a Flamethrower, or do you stay safe here and not Terra that Amoonguss, thinking that it's going to go for
Walking Wake is special attack booster, which means that it does probably have to go for that Terra Fire eventually to allow itself to outspeed the Fluttermane in the mid-game.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, which we're seeing Giraffe in the back here for Matthew as well as Lilligant, which is I get it. I do get it, especially because at the end of the game you can position Torkoal into a spot where it's in a really strong spot. Like, great. I actually really like it. There's a play that Matthew I think can make it to be really strong, which is to switch Lilligant in place of Torkoal. You might lose the stash on it, but I think honestly the double protect is kind of what's expected, so I don't think Michael would go for a fake out here. And the Amoonguss Protect, yeah, it makes sense there, because you want to scout out and see what happens before you Terra. Are you going to see Fake Out or Parting Shot? I think Parting Shot here. Or Knockoff. Oh, fair enough. This does become interesting as well, though, because this is a special attack boosted Walking Wake. That's going to absolutely knock out this Incineroar, unless it tears to water. And if you do, Torkoal now becomes a threat, because it's got easy one-hit KO on your Amoonguss. So, what do you go for in that case? Personally, I like the idea of just going for the target into the Incineroar, force it out, and going for an Eruption, because even if you get Spored, you're going to waste that one sleep turn right now, and possibly wake up on the next turn when Michael has to make a really passive play, and Eruption will still do a lot of damage onto Fluttermane or Ursaluna in the back on Michael's side. So yeah, you're risking a little bit of the sleep turns, but I don't mind the passiveness of the play there, you know?
So we're seeing the Terra come out here. Looks like it is the Amoonguss tearing into fire, but I don't think it's going to do a good job of living that helping hand Draco Meteor that Matthew locked into the Amoonguss.
Yeah, that's going to do a massive amount of damage. I understand the Terra, but this is the highest power move that Walking Wake can have at neutral. It is going to knock out. It is.
Oh, and that cannot feel good for Michael, wasting his Terra on one turn. Like, I really like the way that he approached this game, because as soon as Walking Wake goes down, either being sacrificed or doing enough damage, like, you can just start going for the after you Weather Balls or after you Eruptions. There's nothing really stopping that. And Walking Wake can also pivot out and go for Hydro Steams, which is so valuable in this position.
100%. You nailed it there. Not to mention, you got Terrifier to dodge anything Fluttermane hits you with. It's a really solid position. Honestly, here, what I like the idea of is maybe switch into Farigiraf. It's kinda in a spot that's not great. I would want the Walking Wake out because of its special attack boost. Option 2, do exactly that. Have Helping Hand Hydro Steam take the hit from the Walking Wake. If you can position yourself to where that Fluttermane is locked in a Moonblast, Torkoal has a very clear path to victory at the end here, because you can either knock out that Ursaluna with 2 Hydro Steams, or you can bring out Lilligant and all of a sudden you're good. And if Fluttermane's going to have to take 2 hits on the Lilligant, if it locks in the Moonblast, that also helps, because you now have the 50-50 game of which one to target. So I think this is a very wise play on Matthew's side. That Terra to fire as well, baiting out that Moonblast. If Michael calls this though and goes for a Power Gem, that's going to be very good for Michael and could turn the tide.
The Power Gem lock would be so interesting here, because this Walking Wake, just like the Amoonguss did the turn prior, would just waste its Terra, but instead, no, we see the Moonblast come out. Do we get the special attack drop? No. This Hydro Steam at -2, it's Sun Boost, it kicks up the Incineroar. You know, there's a lot of hate that goes into Walking Wake. We all hate Walking Wake for its damage output, but that is no more. It has proved itself, even at -2, to be able to defeat this Incineroar.
Well, you know, I think you just kind of sit back and have fun if you're Matthew. Go for a Hydro Steam. I think, honestly, Weather Ball into Fluttermane, just to chip it. Because there's a good, maybe double into the Fluttermane here while the Ursaluna can't do that much damage, but there is a threat of it just going right away for a, I mean, it could go for Earthquake. I think it's going to go headlong because it wants to preserve Fluttermane as much as possible. But there's a case for protecting Torkoal and letting your Walking Wake go down so you can get Lilligant out while the sun's still up, you know? That works, though.
Matthew does have to be a little bit careful to make sure that after this initial turn of the sun, that he's able to get a second wave going.
Keep in mind that damage was at -2. It is special attack boosted, but it's -2. Walking Wake just absolutely destroying half of Michael's team here, and this Ursaluna now is on a very quick timer, and by that I mean it is gone. I mean, I think it's pretty much over here.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how Michael is going to adapt in Game 3, because the Walking Wake and Torkoal felt so oppressive against Michael's initial game plan that he brought during Game 1. If he's able to adapt to whatever Michael is able to bring and keep the offensive pressure up, it's going to be so interesting in this next game.
This is why Pokemon is one of my favorite games of all time. Look at the back and forth. I mean, huge props to Michael and Matthew. Just before we go into Game 3, Michael absolutely commanded with that Game 1. Knew, like, called the bluff on the Terra, won it with that Terrifier Amoonguss, just absolutely nailed it. Matthew was like, yeah, not happening in game 2, it's Hydro Steaming time. And this just shows that these two players have such skill when it comes to adaptation and reads, and honestly, like, just watching them play, you can tell that they are really trying to get into each other's heads and make the calls that are not obvious, and it's working on both ends in both different games. So now it's one of those things where it's like, you've called reads, you've made your good adaptations. Now it comes to the point where, what is the other person thinking? Are they going to go for the obvious play and repeat what worked in their respective winning game, or are they going to go for something completely left field and be like, I think you're going to go for this, so I'm going to go for this, and just kind of counter it. It's so 50-50.
I think just like we saw last season, Michael has proved why he's one of SoCal's best players.
Absolutely.
He has consistently been able to put this performance up at our local tournaments that have very strong players, and he rises above and is oftentimes at the top.
Absolutely. And Matthew, I mean, again, he's from Toronto, Canada, so not a SoCal local. However, if you've never seen him play, I call him one of the masters of Trick Room. He's really well versed with Torkoal and Furry Giraffe specifically, as well as Ursaluna and all the Trick Room users, and knows how to make reads based on that. And I think that's why these two players work so well. Michael's been on this Porygon Ursaluna team for a long time. I believe he was running it also in Reg H, so he's got literal months, probably, I mean, at this point, like a year worth of practice with this archetype. Same goes for Matthew, so it is just insane.
And we see Incineroar P2, a slight adaptation, bringing Porygon 2 to count for this Walking Wake. But is this just going to not be enough? Because we see the Lilycole lead for Matthew. This is so interesting.
Do you click your Terra Ghost and dodge the fake out? But here's the thing, this is what's interesting, right? You can't click Trick Room with Porygon. So what do? Do you swap out this Lilligant to try and survive the fake out and keep your focus sash up? Do you go for Terra Ghost to just Sleep Powder Porygon and Eruption and kind of make a one-turn gambit to win the whole thing? Or do you switch into Walking Wake or Raging Bolt on the Lilligant, expecting the fake out, not taking a ton of damage, and then going for the Eruption? I don't know. I like the idea of... I don't even know. This is so 50-50. And on Michael's side, it's a fantastic lead here. Trick Room, Fake Out, so many different utility options. And if this was a Fake Out Ice Beam, this could be massive.
Instead, we see the Terra Blast go into the Torkoal. At +1, that does so much damage. Torkoal, what are you doing? Porygon, what are you doing? You're a support mod.
Okay, I actually kind of like the position that Matthew's in. It wasn't great, but it's not awful either. Sleep Powder onto the Porygon 2 is definitely optimal right now, and then you can switch into Walking Wake. Incineroar can Parting Shot it, but as we've seen with Walking Wake, at -2, it still does an insane amount of damage. I think that's the call, personally, is to just... You could also go for, expecting Torkoal not going to be targeted here. You could take the risk and Weather Ball the Porygon 2 to pick up the knockout on it, could Protect so you can get Helping Hands going. Personally, I think I would have swapped the Torkoal out for Walking Wake and gone for a Sleep Powder or Close Combat here on one of these two, maybe a Close Combat onto Porygon, so that way you can just kind of knock it out. But, it's so many options this can go. Same on Michael's side. You've got Trick Room now because the Torkoal is low. You've got potential switch into Amoonguss. So many options.
Honestly, the fact that Porygon 2 got the special attack boost means that it's probably the dominant damage output option on Michael's team. It's so scary. And you see the Terra Flying proc on Porygon 2 probably go for Terra Blast into this Lilligant. This does not seem necessary because Terra Blast into such a frail Pokemon shouldn't do enough damage.
I think it's a combination of that and also the combination of Dun not wanting to get KO'd by Close Combat, or at least put it low from Close Combat. I actually think this is going to target the Torkoal here. The Ursaluna is an interesting switch-in. It could be a potential trick. It's a Trick Room. It's a Trick Room, which might have... Okay, you know what? This is interesting now because you do have to target the Torkoal. This now becomes a 50-50 game in a way. Can you keep Torkoal in a position where Weather Ball can one-shot this Ursaluna? It will with Terra Fire. And we also know that the Amoonguss is super susceptible to Torkoal and Trick Room. So now the question is, what are you going to do here? Can you go for... There's so many different options. I like the idea of protecting Torkoal, letting Walking Wake do its thing. If it goes down, it goes down. Then bringing out your Raging Bolt so you can just go for that Thunderclap into the Porygon and go for a Terra Fire Weather Ball into that Ursaluna slot.
but instead we see the Earthquake lock from Michael. But it's all down to what this Porygon 2 does into the Walking Wake slot.
Walking Wake gets a move. Walking Wake gets a move. Thanks to that recover on P2. And it's a Draco Meteor in the sun, -1.
It does not do enough damage, but it does bring Ursaluna valuably into Weather Ball range from the Torkoal.
Yep. I think
now, as the last turns of Sun are coming up, these are the last 2 turns, I believe, that this is going to be really, really interesting to see how Matthew plays this out. If he's able to play for a second Sun as well.
Question now is, becomes a 50-50. Do you protect Ursaluna or not? That's, I think, what this game comes down to. Do you take the risk and go for it, or I think Ursa's going to swap. I think Ursa's going to swap. I think here what you do is, I don't even know. So many different options.
I think Porygon 2 is just free to go for whatever target, unless Matthew gets the critical hit with the Draco Meteor into the Porygon 2.
Okay, we saw the Ursaluna switch out. I mean, it's going to probably be Incineroar, I figured, solely because, you know, it's in a spot where it doesn't really... It's pretty good into... it's pretty solid into Weather Ball here. The Protect on Torkoal makes sense.
For the double.
Yeah, that was a double! Okay, well that's gonna change things now.
Ooh, this is going to be really, really interesting because the Fake Out into the Walking Wake plus the Terra Blast into the Torkoal, there's nothing that's able to stop that. Like,
I think you sacrifice Wake here and bring out, or you can go into Lilligant. A double switch is not bad. Lilligant into the Wake slot, I think Torkoal would not mind at all being swapped out in for Raging Bolt, because you're going to have to call that so hard by Ice Beaming it, and to have even a shot. And, I don't think that Michael's going to take that risk, because if not, Torkoal can go ahead and hit the Porygon 2 and stop another Trick Room from coming out later in the game. So I think that the safe... Matthew's got Michael in the spot where swapping the Raging Bolt out in the Torkoal slot is going to really be beneficial. And if I'm not mistaken, I think this next turn is the last turn of Trick Room, which means if you're Matthew, you're like, cool, I know I'm faster, even without the Sun for all these Pokemon, I can just get to a position where I can end it with that, you know? End outside of Trick Room.
Yeah, especially this Raging Bolt looks so scary right now into this Terra Flying Pichu. It does no damage now that it's now a flying type.
Walking Wake gets another hit! I'm actually shocked at that.
Yeah, Walking Wake at -3. Let's see how much his Hydro Beam does. It does so much damage!
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah. You know, Walking Wake, I am so sorry. I do not understand your game. I did not respect it. This Pokemon genuinely is crazy.
Now, there's one really, really scary thing here, which is you don't have the Sun up anymore. And I think that's... You gotta really call, if you're Matthew, read Michael's play. Are you gonna go for an Ice Beam, or are you gonna go for the Terra Flying, predicting a swap on that Raging Bolt slot? Incineroar, I think, kinda in a spot where it can help with it. Go for a knockoff and double up. I honestly say you stick with the Wake here. Maybe protect it and switch to Torkoal. I actually like that play a lot. I would probably protect the Wake and swap the Torkoal here. Like, that just seems really solid. And that's what we are going to see happen here. Okay. If Walking Wake goes down, I still think this is solid, though. But I think you kind of want Walking Wake to go down here. Ice Beam does not pick up the knockout on Torkoal, meaning Torkoal will guaranteed have another turn. And Walking Wake, for the third turn in a row, gets another move off.
But, like, consequentially here, like, Michael can go into that Amoonguss.
Yeah.
Like, Walking Wake has one more Life Orb tick left, and then it is going to faint. It does put itself on the back foot in terms of positioning here for Matthew, because how are you going to deal with this Amoonguss at this point?
Yeah, now it's a really interesting call here. Like, really, really interesting, because you have Raging Bolt. Well, here's the thing. Raging Bolt's got a little thing called Weather Ball. Helping Hand Weather Ball might be able to pick up from that range. Bad news, though, you are now going to be in Trick Room. Good news, though, you have Torkoal in Trick Room. I think you go...
No, Trick Room expired this turn already.
Yeah, so I think the play here, the Raging Bolt makes a lot of sense to me. I think what you got to do here is Helping Hand Weather Ball into the Amoonguss slot, just to take that risk, and then Porygon's going to really have to click Trick Room on this turn, because we have Lilligant in the back, that's fast. Terra Bug I also like as well, to just kind of not take Ice Beam damage, but I would just go Helping Hand Weather Ball into that Amoonguss, and keep the Torkoal up, go for a Helping Hand. I think... Can also just go for the attack on the Porygon too, but I think he's going to get Follow Made, or Rage Powdered.
Matthew is incredibly fortunate here. He's able to take whatever pick that he wants on the Porygon 2 or the Amoonguss. He is dining right now, and he gets to eat whatever Pokemon possible, and this Raging Bolt is going to feast. We see the Terra Bug come out from the Raging Bolt. Does that make it really susceptible to these Terra Blasts coming from the Pichu?
It's 100% a call.
Really interesting.
100% a call that this Porygon's not going to click Trick Room this turn.
And the Amoonguss does go for Rage Powder.
Then I can see it, honestly. Bolt goes for the Weather Ball first. It is naturally faster than Porygon 2, so we're not going to find out quite yet what the right call was.
And this Weather Ball adaptation on this team is so interesting. Because just being able to thread in this one-hit KO, so valuable for a mon like this.
Man.
Yeah, I don't know what's stopping Ursula from coming in and Earthquakes at this point. Everything is so low.
Yeah, this whole game came down to a 50-50 there. I think that was the call. I think a Thunderclap plus Porygon onto the Porygon is the right call.
Lilligant almost wishes that it has like Helping Hands here to be able to do more damage into this Porygon too. But unfortunately, it's just looking like it's too little too late.
There is one thing though, this is a Terra Bug Raging Bolt, which means it is going to have to Facade. I think it's going to Facade Lilligant, and then the Porygon's going to go for the Terra Blast, so that's the question now. And then if you do, I'm pretty sure you can be able to pick up that Porygon too.
Yeah.
So I think you sacrifice...
has to do is just go for one button. Go for the Terra Blast button, which is Porygon 2's stab attack.
Okay, this is interesting. Predicting that the Facade's going into the Torkoal, I guess. It does. But now it's a terrifying Porygon 2 here. It's predicting the Earthquake, I think, there. I think Michael was able to read this perfectly. And there's that Terra Blast.
Honestly, there's not much room for Matthew to play around that. Michael just positioned his Pokemon so well. Getting Ursaluna in and Trick Room, not being afraid of the Torkoal, and just going for Trick Room, even though that this is one of the slowest Pokemon in the game.
What a match. I mean, I'm literally on the edge of my seat. Like, literally on the edge of my seat. This is insane. This whole game, I just want to point out, this whole game came down to a 50-50 call on whether or not Michael clicked Trick Room or clicked an attack. That is how tight this match was. The clap coming out in the sun does a ton of damage.
Like 60% to Porygon 2. That's easily a 2-hit KO, but it's just too little as... Yeah, Michael defeats Matthew.
And Michael Wagner going to take home the gold today.
Michael winning Psycho Turtle yet again. What is SoCal's best?
Like you said, I mean, he won 2 in a row last format. Today, again, and I'm talking, like I said earlier, comfortability is key. That's kind of my go-to, like, phrase in Pokemon, is comfortability is key. And this top 2 was extremely comfortable, as you saw in all 3 matches. Michael, been playing that Porygon 2 and that Ursaluna Core for so long, knows the ins and outs of it, and was able to show that. Same goes for Matthew with that Trick Room Sun Core. And they both knew their strengths and their weaknesses, and it just became a really epic fight to the finish. And Michael, gonna walk away here with 15 championship points. Nicely done to him. Matthew, I think, walking away with 12. But wow, get some water, take a breath. Thank you, Jason, for co-casting with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this was a pleasure. We got to watch some really high-level Pokemon. And against both of our bracket demons in all likelihood, which is so exciting. It turns out your bracket demon won over mine, and I'm very sad about that. But it's so cool to see such high-level gameplay at a local in Southern California.
Absolutely.
That could be you. Anyone who's watching the stream, that could be you.
It's true. Come on down here. We got one more, I think, next weekend before Seattle Regionals. We got EUIC coming up next weekend as well, so keep your eyes on that. The format going to be shaken up by that. But come try your luck over here. It's always fun. Miguel, Troy, Taryn, thank you guys for hosting, and thank you guys at home for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bidoof and I, and Jason, I'll wish you goodbye.
Goodbye.